Hello, welcome back to the channel. So we're now a couple of days post marathon. It's time to have a quick look back, an analysis and a bit of a deep dive into the stats and data, how I felt on the race day, how my race went. So let's dive straight into it. So yeah, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the new studio space. So yeah, a bit of work done on the house and now I'm going to use this room as my new kind of internal studio space. But yeah, I'm going to try and get this as quick as possible. I do tend to ramble on a little bit when I'm looking at deep dive and data. So yeah, I do like to look at all the stats and data. They're the things that don't lie. Obviously, subjectively, you could feel quite good or quite bad, but again, the stats and data in terms of heart rate, cadence, pace you're running at, that kind of is finite in terms of it is what it is and it can't be kind of changed and manipulated in any way. So yeah, I'm going to quickly dive into it. Those that haven't watched the actual race vlog, go and watch that there. Again, that was just a kind of condensed version of my race. I did kind of check in a couple of times, generally at the 10k marks. So I'll do the same now in terms of every 10k. I don't want to go into every 5k block. It will take all, we'll be here all day. So yeah, every 10k, I was going to quickly check in and go through all the main stats and facts at that point, how I was feeling, and the kind of reasons why I ran the paces I ended up running in the end. So yeah, I'm going to refer to my Coros data, which is the most accurate and the most in-depth data I've got at hand, obviously off my Apex Pro. Again, I'll probably put these stats on the screen as I'm talking through, just to give you guys a kind of idea of what I'm looking at the same time. So yeah, the first 10k, I ended up doing that in 49.39. Average heart rate for that 10k block was 145. Average cadence was 168. My average stride length was 119. That's quite important as the race goes on. That is the only thing that really varies massively is the actual stride length. Again, as my legs start to tire. The average pace for that, I'll put details on the screen for the average pace for that 10k block in both miles and k. And yeah, I set off again like I planned. I've watched the race plan. Again, that's there. Maybe go and watch that one first. But yeah, as planned, set off on feel, nice and calm. Wanted to keep that heart rate below 150, 155 was the kind of plan. Definitely below 160 in the first half of the race. But yeah, I felt fairly comfortable. Just it was kind of easy paced. Again, for the first 10k, it should feel really easy. There is a couple of slopes at the start of the race as you climb up into Chester. But yeah, nothing of any concern. I was basically just easing my way into the race. Nice and calm, I let everyone settle around me. I was just basically finding my rhythm and getting myself started into the next 10k. So from 10 to 20k, again, I was still a long way to go. I wanted to get to kind of a halfway mark, still feeling very comfortable. Again, so the second 10k was at 50 minutes 41, so pretty much a minute slower than the first 10k. So what's that? That's 6 seconds per k slower. And yeah, details on screen for the average pace. So yeah, exactly 6 seconds per k slower. Again, details on screen for mileage as well. And yeah, my heart rate now gone up to 150 for the average. So I've got up about 5 beats per minute, but again, I've now covered 20k by this point, so that's fine. Average cadence have gone up to 170, which is what I wanted it to be, around the 170 mark consistently, hopefully. And my stride length had dropped by a couple of centimetres down to 116, so I had short my stride a little bit. But yeah, I was still feeling pretty comfortable. I think it was at this point, I'll have to refer back to the race vlog, but I think at this point is when I started to feel a little bit of tightness in both hamstrings. I'd never had that during the block. I obviously had those that followed the block. Know that I've had a few leg issues in the last couple of weeks in terms of Achilles and a foot issue and a metatarsal problem, but nothing really. The hamstrings are generally quite tight, but I've never really had an issue whilst running. It's generally the day after or kind of in the aftermath of a hard session. I did do a minimal taper week in the build up to the race. Obviously, I did a easiest run, I think on the Monday or the Tuesday, and then on the Friday I did a bit of a kind of tempo-ish blast. I think it was about 6k, maybe around that figure, at about 4:30 per k, 7:20 I think it is per mile. So nothing too strenuous, but again, maybe that just tightened them up a little bit. But again, I did a lot of recovery this week in terms of foam rolling. I think it was just a deficiency on the day. So yeah, up to this point, I'm still going well. I'm still feeling pretty comfortable. So my average heart rate had been like 147 at this point, up to the 20k. That kind of pace aerobically is pretty easy, pretty steezy. So in terms of CV wise, it wasn't causing me any distress. Before the race, the plan would have at this point probably been to kick on a little bit and maybe dip below that 8-minute mile, 5 minute per k consistently and see how far I could push. But I think at this point in the race, again, reflecting back on the actual race vlog, knowing that I had tightness in both hamstrings, it was significant tightness in terms of a bit of a discomfort. I wanted to manage that and not, again, push too hard too soon and end up having to stumble and bumble my way to the finish line. So I deliberately, over the next 10k, 12k, I think I said in the actual race vlog, kind of reined it back a little bit. I just wanted to manage that hamstring tendons, not making them any more tight, any more strain on them. So the next 10k from 20 to 30k, I end up doing a 53.13 for that 10k. Again, details on screen, average pace that I dropped another 15 seconds per k. And again, details on screen for mileage dropped. So yeah, I have slowed, but again, that was deliberate. And again, just a quick couple of details. So yeah, heart rate, because I'd slowed down slightly, dropped back down to 147 average for that 10k up to the 30k mark, which seems quite low considering the distance I'd covered. Normally my heart rate increases as I go along, but I'll touch upon that in a minute. Cadence maintained at 170, so I was happy with how the shoes were performing in terms of the Puma DV8 Nitro Elites. They were keeping my cadence nice and high, nice and easy, just cruising along hopefully. And my stride length again had dropped again a bit more significantly this time, down to 110. Again, I think I was conscious that I'd slowed slightly, maintained my cadence, but obviously reduced my stride length, not to overstretch that hamstring, knowing I've got still quite a way to go. So yeah, I got to the 30k point. I was still feeling pretty good. I was pretty delighted with how I was feeling CV wise. It was one of them almost bittersweet moments where I knew if my legs had basically been a bit stronger and a bit more conditioned, I could potentially have really put down some decent amount of pace now for this last 10k block. I could have really kicked on. But again, pre-race it was all about enjoying the race come what may. So at 30k, again, I didn't feel the need to kick on massively, because again, the hamstrings still weren't feeling great. I still had 12k to go and the hills were coming up in terms of that second half. I was have run the race from Farndon back to Chester. You get a couple of downs and ups, and then you get a bit of a flat bit, but then you get a couple of rollers towards the end. So that's kind of the bit that kind of picks you up and spits you back out if you think you're feeling pretty good, and then you do a couple of rolling hills and suddenly you've gone. So yeah, I wasn't counting my chickens. But yeah, up to the 40k mark, again, I decided to rumble along. I was obviously fatiguing, tiring, my legs were feeling a little bit jaded, not just the hamstrings. By this point, it's a marathon after all, and it's only my second one, so I was feeling a bit jaded. It wasn't all conscious in terms of the pace, but I also wasn't deliberately trying to push through any kind of fatigue or push on in terms of effort. Honestly, my effort throughout this whole race, I'd probably say was about a 6, maybe a 7 at most. Okay, I was literally trying to cruise along, do it as efficiently and as not easily as possible, but just to see what may in terms of if I just basically cruise along at a comfortable-ish pace, what would that result be? But yes, up to 40k. I ended up doing a 55.11. So again, looking at the actual stats, I did just slow down gradually as the race goes on, which wasn't the intention. I think I stated prior to the race that I wanted to do either negative split or consistently split. I've done what a lot of marathoners do and most people do, is obviously positive split, and as the race has gone on I have slowed down slightly. But again, some of that was deliberate. That second half I deliberately slowed down to try and manage the hamstrings. I think I mentioned that in the race vlog. But yeah, the last 10k up to 40k was 55.11. So again, average pace on the screen was my slowest 10k of the 4. But again, heart rate, because I slowed down even more, the heart rate dropped down to lower than easy. I think that's a low zone 2 for me. 138 beats a minute for the last 10k up to 40k. My cadence again maintained fairly consistent up to 168, which I'm pretty happy about. Normally as I fatigue, my cadence dropped massively down to the low 160s and I start to plod. So I'm pretty happy with my cadence. I think the shoes did help. And my stride length again dropped to a little bit down to 107, so just over a metre of a stride. So it's not a long stride for me. I'm a fairly tall runner, just under 6'3". So when I'm really moving, it goes up to say 120s, 130s. When I'm on easy runs, it drops to that 107, 108. So again, when I'm kind of just trotting along. So yeah, my last 10k, but again, it was pretty comfortable. And again, from 2 years ago, remembering them hills, that was the bit I literally just died upon. I ended up dropping to like 9-10 minute miles for some of them last couple of miles with them hills. I literally had nothing left in the tank. On the race day this time in 2024, it felt very similar to all the previous parts of the race. Granted, I had slowed down, so that's why maybe the effort level didn't seem all that much more higher than earlier in the race when it was flat. But yeah, it wasn't by any means straining. I was still talking to plenty of people. I met a lot of people on the race day in terms of people that I ever know or people that know me. Again, I was talking to a lot of different runners. A couple of people have came up to me and passed me, and I was just having a chat. And again, I was really comfortable and really happy with how I was going along. Yes, I could have maybe put my foot down and tried to push on and see how quick I could have gone over the last bit. But again, at this point, And the same as what I've done pre-race in terms of the goals and ambitions. This is my second marathon. There will be more down the line. I didn't feel the need to push on too hard. Again, I was still managing the hamstring. That was still in the back of my mind. Plus, I was enjoying myself up until this point. And we're almost at the end now. So it was just a matter of finishing quite well. Maybe doing a little bit of a kick towards the end to finish strongly. But yeah, basically just enjoy the marathon experience this time rather than battering myself and putting too much pressure and goals on myself this time. So yeah, into that last 2.2k, just over. We basically, I think you're just scaling the top of the last hill, and then the last 2k's probably the top of the hill, and then the downhill, and then up, and then a flat bit kind of along the river, just to the finish line. I did consciously give a little bit of effort. So once I get to the top of the hill, I basically just go up the hill efficiently. I didn't drive up the hill or anything specific. But once I get to the top of the hill, it's a significant kind of consistent downhill all the way down to the river. You got a little pop up and then a back down, and then it's a flat bit all the way to the finish. So the last bit down to the riverbank was tough on the legs when they were already jaded, and then the flat bit again, I didn't sprint by any means, but nowhere near that, but I literally picked up the legs a little bit and picked up the effort in terms of just pushing a little bit more harder just to get to the finish. Yeah, so I did the last 2.2k in 11:50. Again, details on screen for the average for that, just that last 2k, just over for miles in k on screen. And again, the heart rate picked up a little bit, back up to 142. My cadence remained consistent at about 169. My stride length again picked up back up to more like 112, which is higher than the previous 20k. So again, I opened my legs a little bit, like I mentioned, and just basically extended my stride and tried to pick up a little bit of the pace. And so that was the race as a whole in terms of the stats and data. So yeah, just a quick roundup now. So yeah, finished time was 3 hours 40:08 was my chip time. My Strava's got me down as 3:40:05 is the actual marathon time, but again we'll go off 3:40 for now. I'll just refer to it as 3:40 low, obviously. Again, am I bothered that I'm 5, 8, 10 seconds over and I could have got a 3:39? Not at all. Again, the goal, I didn't want to ever have pace on my watch or time or distance on my watch. I literally just had my heart rate and my cadence displayed. So again, trying to maintain a not too strenuous heart rate, so I wasn't kind of blinded by which effort I was putting in early, especially early on. And I wanted to maintain a fairly high cadence for efficiency. But yeah, overall, pretty happy with how it went in terms of I'm delighted with my aerobic fitness. I do feel that obviously now I've done the race, the legs were the kind of limiting factor in terms of the strength of them and the conditioning of them. Again, as towards the end of the block, I was having a few niggles, and on the day itself, the hamstrings were the ones that ended up causing me to slow down slightly. Could I have? I think personally, I think if my legs had been a bit more conditioned, or if I'd wanted to push on the day and kind of again sail closer to the wind and one for a better phrase, balls to the hamstrings, let's just go for it and see. I'm pretty confident I could have dipped below 3:30, but again, this is all just hot air really. But personally, I do think that's what I could have got. My kind of training wasn't ideal, but again, I was getting back in my mind subconsciously, I was worried about the lack of long runs. I wasn't sure how I'd fare after 30k, but aerobically pretty happy with that. I said 30 to 40k, yes. Nutrition wise and energy wise, I was lacking a little bit, like everyone is at that point. The legs were fatiguing, but again, everyone's there at that point. But CV wise, my heart rate didn't spike to a massive high. I did slow down, obviously, naturally. But again, some of that was conscious, some of that was probably subconscious in terms of just fatigue. But yeah, overall, pretty happy. Second marathon, I got an 8-minute PB. And again, in terms of effort, I didn't put all that much in. Obviously, I was trying to cruise. I was putting an effort in, obviously, because I was not trying to be blasé about it. I could just jogged around. I put a bit of effort in, obviously, but I was generally trying to cruise and not strain myself too much too early. I was fairly consistent. I'm pretty happy with how I paced it. Yes, I did slow down. I would love to have flipped them around and done it the other way around. But again, going off the heart rate, I was at no point was I running too quick early on in terms of fatiguing. So yeah, I will wrap it up there. That's Marathon 2.0 complete. So yeah, happy with the PB of any sort, but again, it was a very significant PB, 8 minutes. Conditions on the day were pretty much perfect. There was a bit of a drizzle at the start, but after that, it didn't really rain. Overcast, good temp. I think it was about 12, 13 degrees C. So yeah, for most people, that's pretty much ideal conditions, so you can't grumble about that. In terms of the shoes, just quickly to touch upon them, I'm pretty happy with how they went. They probably didn't need, so again, when I bought them, everyone was saying they were a good shoe, carbon plated, nitro foam, really good. They were perfect for my half marathon time trial I did early in the year when I set I think it was a 3 or 4 minute, 3 minute PB in the half marathon. So time trial I did early in the year. But yeah, probably that last 10-12k, you probably do want a bit more stack, and that was one of the kind of feedback from other people that have used them in the past. Obviously, it's a slightly older model. I think V2 V2 came out last year and V3 is out this year, so they're a couple of years old now. V3 is a far bigger shoe. I did see a few people noticed that during the race. I did see a few other people in the Nitro Elite V3s. But yeah, I did get a little bit of kind of heat under the ball of the feet towards the end, and they weren't really giving me as much proportion towards the end with the foam starting to kind of compress a bit too much towards the latter stages. But yeah, overall pretty happy. Like I said, happy with everything went. I had no issues, no niggles. Something I didn't mention on the race vlog, I did actually stop twice. So I stopped at the 27? I think it was a 27k mark for a quick hamstring stretch. And then again at the 35k mark, just next to the Portaloos, I had to just do a hamstring stretch twice. The 27k mark, I think is when we're hitting Farndon, so it's a big downhill and then a very big uphill in terms of a significant hill. At that point, my hamstrings were particularly tight, and I didn't feel like I was going to be able to get down and up comfortably. So I stopped just before I did the down into Farndon over the bridge. Touched my toes a few times just in terms of trying to release that tension in my hamstrings, and then cracked on. It was only about 10-12 seconds. And then again, I did pretty much the same at the 35k, just off the drink station. Grabbed my drink, took a couple of steps walking just while I had a couple of drinks of water, chucked that in the bin, and then I saw the toilet, so I literally just leaned up against them, did a quick hamstring and calf stretch. Again, another 10, 12, 15 seconds tops, and then cracked on just to finish the race over the last 7k. But again, that was what was required at the time. I felt it was a benefit to me to just get that stretch done and kind of release that bit of that tension in the hamstrings. But yeah, so lessons learned. CV wise, I think I was pretty much where I wanted to be. Could I have gone faster? Yes. CV wise, I could have definitely done, but the limiting factor was the legs. So kind of takeaways from this is that more strength and conditioning is required. The weak point of me right now is my leg strength and my leg conditioning. I can do the shorter stuff, but when I get past that, say that 20 mile mark, the legs aren't quite where I wanted to be in terms of my ambitions. If I wanted to run a 320 or a 330, for example, aerobically I probably could have been quite close, but legs wise they would not have withstood that kind of pace. So yeah, that's kind of one of the takeaways. More strength and conditioning as I go forward now, and I go into another block maybe in the new year. I'm going to look at far more kind of consistent and structured conditioning. It's something I maybe kind of neglected towards the tail end of this training block. To focus on the running, and obviously neglected the conditioning element of it and the strength to make the legs a bit stronger. And that's kind of showed its face again, especially towards the end of the block. But yeah, so pretty happy overall. Marathon 2.0 done. Are there more marathons in my future? More than likely. I'm not going to be rushing into any more just now. Again, I think it's a big commitment. It takes a lot of time, effort, patience, consistency. And that's not going to come to me anytime in the near future. But definitely I'm not going to turn my back on the marathon. It's a hell of a distance. It's one that's going to take a bit of time to master. Again, I've only done 2, so I'm by no means anywhere near mastering it at all yet. But again, really enjoyed the second one. I enjoyed the first one, to be fair, but yeah, I really enjoyed the second one. I'm very happy with how it felt aerobically. It's just work to be done on the leg strength in terms of I need to get more long runs done. Again, it's still fairly novel to me. Again, even in this block, I didn't get loads of long runs done. So I think I'll go away. I'm going to enjoy myself over this winter. I'll drop a what's the next vlog in the next couple of weeks in terms of what I'm going to be focusing on just towards the end of 2024. Nothing too serious. And then into 2025, I'll review and see what I want to do in terms of goals, ambitions, races into 2025. But yeah, Marathon 2.0 done. Happy with that. Well done to everyone that ran. I was really enjoyed seeing loads of familiar faces, meeting new people on the day. I spoke to loads of different people before, after and during the actual race itself. Really great to hear all your stories about some of you were doing the metrics, some of you were doing the marathon. It was great, and again I really enjoyed the fact that I was running at a pace where I was able to talk to people. I wasn't just tunnel vision, I've got a goal to hit and I'm going to just ignore everybody else and get to my goals if that's the most important thing. I really enjoyed talking to people, chatting to people, taking in everything. All the little villages that came out in force was brilliant. There's some quiet pockets on the race, but there is some kind of louder bits in terms of Holt and Oldford and Farndon. They all came out in force, and Sandy Lane was just chaos with the tunnel of noise from like the KMC group, and everybody that was all the people spectating there were just shouting and cheering everybody on. So yeah, I'll wrap it up there and stop rambling on. Overall, pretty happy. Like I said, Marathon 2.0 done. I'm glad it's I managed to even get on the start line and actually get it finished in a decent time. Buzzing with the PB. Well done to everyone that did run. All the best for your running. I look out for upcoming vlogs in terms of what's next, and a few things I've wanted to get done for a while but I couldn't get done while the marathon was on. But yeah, all the best. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Happy running, and I'll see you all on the next one.